Here is a spread from my Shakespeare play, as you can see, and I have currently headers, that is, it's just saying A Midsummer Night's Dream on both sides of the spread, and this was fine for the introductory pages to have something static there. But what we actually want to do now is to create a running header. Now, what is a running header? Running header is basically something that changes depending on what part of the book we're in. So typically in a novel, of course, that's going to have the chapter. In our case, we really want to say, when we get to these pages here, we want to be able to say up there what act and what scene we are currently reading. So there are various aspects to this, so I'm going to go through hopefully and explain this to you very clearly. So the first step is we need to go to our master pages. So you can see that's up here. So here are my master pages, and this is where I'm going to enter it. Okay, on this right hand side actually. So what we need to do then is to go to our type menu and look for text variables. We need to define a text variable. Here's our panel here, and we're going to create a new one. Now, I'm just going to give it the name of act, and the type, what it's asking you now is what type of text variable is it. I'm going to click that down triangle there, and then go to the very bottom, a running header with a paragraph style. What this basically means is it's going to pull some information from a paragraph style used throughout the book, and we need to choose that style. Of course, I'm going to choose act. So in other words, what is currently being displayed in act throughout the pages of our play, and that's what's going to appear in the running header. So OK to that. Done. Okay, so now if we go up into this right hand corner here, I'm just going to simply remove this text box, and I'm going to create a new one. Just put it anywhere for the moment, but obviously we will need to line all this up. Now inside that text box, we want to then go back to our type menu, and we want to go to our text variables panel and insert the variable that we've just created. Now that should be displaying here. However, I think the problem is that we've unfortunately got as a style, we're using character name. We just need to set this as basic paragraph, although actually I do have a particular style called page numbers right, which will put this in the right place and also the right style. So let's just leave it for that for the moment. I'm just going to come back out, and we'll go into our pages panel and just dip into one of these pages. Now, as you can see, if I zoom in for you, now we're showing that page there with Act 1. If I just now move further into the play, let's say right down here somewhere, this now is saying Act 5. So that text variable is working. Okay, so now let's go back to our master page. What we also want to show is the scene. Now, for this particular project, we have a slight difficulty here, because if we look at our page again, we've got two different styles that we're using for scene. So scene in the place here where it's immediately after the act, and then subsequent scenes are not displayed in this way. So we've got two different styles. We've got one style called first scene, which then makes sure that it doesn't go to the next page, and another style called scene, which does go to a new page. So these are two different styles, and we can't have two variables at the same time, because otherwise we're going to be showing always the first scene throughout the whole of the act. There is a logic to that, so do think about it. But anyway, there you are. That's the problem. So what do we do about that? Well, it's quite straightforward, really. We just need to make sure that we have a character style that is then put onto each one of these scenes. So not only does it have a paragraph style, but it also has a common, and I say that again, a common character style that is applied to all scenes, all scene labels, I should say. All right, so let's actually look and see how we go about doing this. we just need to go to our character styles here, and we're just going to simply create a new style. And this style I'm going to call All Scenes. I don't need to make it anything appearance-wise. I'm not going to change the colour or do anything different to this. It's not going to have a different style at all. So you can see there's absolutely no settings here whatsoever needed. So click OK to that. Now we go back to our type and text variables message. And we need to then insert, or I should say define, a variable. And this time we're making a new one. And we're going to call it scene, or all scenes if you like, or not, just scene will be fine, doesn't really matter. Let's spell it correctly. Okay, and now what kind of what type of variable is this? We now need to use a character style instead of a paragraph style. What style are we going to use? Well, you can see it's already selected because that's something that I already had selected. So the style that I'm using is all scenes. Okay, done. So we've now created the text variable. Okay, now how do we then apply this character style to all of these scenes? Well, for here we use our find and search menu, find and change menu I should say. And what we want to do is to choose everywhere where the first scene is being used as a paragraph style. And you can see that I'm selecting that now. So this is what we're finding, and we're changing that format, not the paragraph style, but just simply the all scenes character style. So I'm just going to zoom in on that for you and show you that that basically is all we need to do. So we're finding anything that has a paragraph style first scene applied to it, and we're then applying character style all scenes to it. Change all, 5 replacements. Now we're changing this part to be, instead of finding first scene, we now want to find scene. And we're doing that again, so change all. So now wherever scene is applied to a style, all scenes is also applied to it as a character style. Okay, now let's now go back to our master page. Let's just move that over here a little bit. I'm going to create a new text box. Let's just put it up here for the moment. And now what we want to do in that text box, let me just put it down here for the moment, and make sure that that style that I'm using is the right page number style. And in that text box there, I want to apply or add the text variable, insert variable, scene. So I'm inserting the text variable scene that I've just created. Okay, there we have it. So we've got 2 text boxes here, and I'm just now going to line them up. They need to be up here, of course. Like so. I will need to eventually make sure that they're aligned across the spread. In fact, that one can go a little bit further that way to make sure it comes to the end of that. Okay, so I'm doing this as 2 separate text boxes, as you'll see in a moment. And now let's actually go into our master page panel again and just go into any one of these pages. Okay, so as you can see, we've got Act 1, Scene 1 there. And if I now go down to this one here, we've got Act 3, Scene 1 and Act 3, Scene 2. Now, don't forget though that the important thing about page design is that you don't want to show these markers, if you like, these landmarks throughout the document on the page where we already have that information. So it's unnecessary to have this showing Act 1, Scene 1 when we are at the beginning of Act 1, Scene 1. So what you can do is to remove those things, and you do that by simply pressing the Shift and Command key on your keyboard, selecting over these items, and then removing them. So you're effectively just changing that on that particular page. And then wherever you find the beginning of the act, do the same thing. And then optionally, when you find the beginning of a scene on its own, what you can do is just to remove the scene information, but keep the act information there. That's just an option. You don't have to. You are of course just able to keep Act 1 and the scene name as well. That should be all right. It's not that crucial. And the only other thing to do is to make sure that you line these things up, because you can see at the moment I haven't really paid much attention to the way that these items are lined up across the spread. I need to make sure by grabbing these items here that they actually line up across like that across there. And just to be doubly sure, I'm even going to use a construction line and line them up like that to make sure that they are aligned. Okay, thank you very much.